Greetings, traveller! I've heard rumours that you are on a quest to find the very best video games from years past. Well, it just so happens that I have a list of all the finest games of the year 2017 right here, parcelled up into a handy video and ready to go. Relax, have a mug of ale, and allow me to beguile you with the 10 most wonderful games of an era long since past. Yes, you guessed it, we're back again with another best of X year list, and this time, it's 2017's turn in the hot seat. As ever, in order to qualify for this list, a game must have received a minimum of 7 professional reviews and have been released in at least one territory. We don't include ports, re-releases or collections on this list, as you'll find those in the video relating to their original release year. Review scores come from both Metacritic and Game Rankings, and where the two sites differ in opinion, we go with whichever score is higher. Sounds good? Then let's get on with it. I'm Ashton from TripleJump, and here are the 10 best games of 2017. Number 10, Injustice 2, Xbox One, 89%. At some point in our lives, we've all wondered who would win in a battle between Batman and Superman. Obviously, it's Superman. One's an alien with superpowers, and the other's a sad boy with a lot of cash. With that said though, if you ever wanted to put that to the test, the Injustice series has your back. Injustice 2 is the first, and at the time of writing, only, sequel to 2013's Injustice Gods Among Us, and centres on Batman & Co.'s attempts to restore society after the fall of the Superman regime. However, the rise of a new group of supervillains forces Brucey Dubs to have a rethink, and he must seriously consider releasing Superman to help combat the threat. Like its predecessor, Injustice 2 is a fighting game, and it's up to players to utilise basic attacks, combos and special moves to best their opponents. Players can also make use of the environment to gain advantage on their foes, as well as a trait system that offers temporary buffs. Injustice 2 enjoyed a warm reception from critics upon its release, and earned bucket loads of praise for its story, visual design, voice acting, and improved gameplay mechanics. I guess the only injustice is that the series didn't get another sequel. Number 9, Horizon Zero Dawn, PlayStation 4, 89%. If fighting superheroes isn't your thing, and you'd much rather fight big mechanical monsters, then perhaps this next entry is for you. Set in a post-apocalyptic United States, Horizon Zero Dawn focuses its attention on Aloy, an outcast from the Nora tribe who embarks on a quest to uncover the truth about her past, all whilst dealing with the threat of vicious machines and a variety of human foes. The game allows players to explore a vast open world, embark on a variety of quests, and collecting items that can be used to craft anything from ammo to traps. The skill tree gives players the ability to upgrade Aloy's abilities in whichever way they see fit, letting them adapt the game to their playstyle. Upon its release in 2017, Horizon Zero Dawn garnered a great deal of praise, with critics commending the performances of voice actors Ashley Birch and Lance Riddick, along with the captivating narrative, stunning open world, and the challenging nature of its combat. The game went on to sell over 20 million copies and won a whole bunch of accolades, including 2 DICE Awards and a BAFTA. Horizon Zero Dawn? More like Horizon Zero Flaws. Got 'em. Number 8, Lone Echo, Oculus, 89%. We've got something of a treat for you now, as we take a look at the first ever VR game to feature on the best of X year lists. Released for the Oculus Rift and Rift S, Lone Echo is set in the year 2126 and places players into the shoes of Jack, a service android working aboard the Kronos 2 mining station, which orbits Saturn. When an anomaly knocks out a number of the station's vital systems, it's up to Jack and his human superior Olivia to repair the damage and investigate exactly what has happened. Throughout the game, players will need to explore the ship and use various tools and objects in order to solve puzzles. Unlike many games where players must wander around on their silly little legs, Lone Echo sees them floating around the station and allows them to use any surface to propel themselves in any given direction. Though some critics did complain about the abrupt ending of the game, most agreed that Lone Echo was a monumental leap forward in VR gaming, and commended its achievements in locomotion, UI, and interactivity, as well as the storytelling and how well the relationship between Jack and Olivia was established. Sadly, no leaps forward were made in the nausea department. Number 7, F1 2017, PC, 89%. Beep beep, mother flippers, it's racing time! F1 2017 is the official video game of the 2017 FIA Formula 1 World Championship and gives players the opportunity to hop into a Formula 1 car and compete against other racers at high speeds. In addition to this, there is also a team management mode, which allows players to control the research and development of new car parts. Multiple famous Formula 1 drivers also make an appearance, including the likes of Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, and Fernando Alonso. And commentary is provided by David Croft and Anthony Davidson. I'm sure if you're into Formula 1, all those names will mean something to you. When it hit PC and consoles, F1 2017 received stacks of praise from critics, who were not only pleased with the game's faithful recreation of the sport, but also with the improvements the developer Codemasters had implemented that made F1 2017 superior to its predecessors. Naturally, there wasn't much to appeal to gamers who weren't fans of Formula 1, but if you were into it, F1 2017 was the best way to experience the thrill of the racetrack without having to shell out hundreds of dollary-doos one of those fancy experience days. Number 6, Night in the Woods, PlayStation 4, 89.17%. If you're in the market for a slightly spooky game that features anthropomorphic animals as its central characters, then you really could do worse than to have a crack at Night in the Woods. The plot focuses on May, a 20-year-old college dropout who returns to her hometown to find that one of her friends has disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Naturally, she and her other friends undertake an investigation, but May begins to have strange and vivid dreams, and slowly her mental health starts to deteriorate. Night in the Woods' gameplay is narrative-focused, and players progress through the title by exploring the town, interacting with its inhabitants, and making decisions that will affect how the story pans out. Following a successful Kickstarter campaign that raised over 400% of its original funding goal, Night in the Woods released to stellar reviews, with critics directing most of their praise towards the game's writing, colourful cast of characters, and its visual design. Several publications featured Night in the Woods in their best games of 2017 lists, and the title was nominated for a whole bunch of awards, winning a BAFTA for its narrative excellence. Number 5, Divinity Original Sin 2, PC, 93%. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ashton, if this is the second original sin, surely the sin isn't all that original anymore. It turns out though that you'd be surprised, because Divinity Original Sin 2 has plenty to offer players that they won't have seen in the original Sin. Sick of the word original yet? Original Sin 2 is the sequel to 2014's Divinity Original Sin, and puts players in the role of a sorcerer, an individual who is able to wield a powerful yet dangerous magic known as Source, and who must use it to save the world of Revelon from the threat of the Void Woken. Players begin either by selecting a pre-made character or creating one of their very own, before setting off into the world by themselves or with up to 3 companions. The open-ended class system allows players to mould their characters to their preferred playstyle, and many situations presented to them within the game can be approached in a number of different ways. It was this freedom that critics were so fond of, praising Divinity Original Sin 2 for the sheer number of options it presented to players, along with its vibrant cast of characters, well-designed environments, and engaging combat. Number 4, Persona 5, PlayStation 4, 93.3%. Although Persona 5 was originally released in Japan in 2016, it didn't manage to make its way to the rest of the world until the following year, which A, is very sad for us who don't live in Japan, who have gotten a whole 6 months less Persona 5 in our lives, and 2, makes it eligible for this list. Persona 5 centres on a student who goes by the pseudonym Joker, who transfers to a new school after he is falsely accused of assault. Once there, he and several other students become aware of their special powers, form the vigilante group known as the Phantom Thieves of Heart, and explore the metaverse to steal the malevolent intent from the heart of adults. The game combines a number of different genres, so one moment players will be fighting their way through a sprawling dungeon, and the next, they'll be carefully navigating social interactions. Upon its release, Persona 5 garnered universal acclaim, and in the years since, has been cited amongst the greatest role-playing games of all time. Contemporary critics commended its visual style, engaging thought-provoking story, and highly addictive gameplay. Number 3, What Remains of Edith Finch, Xbox One, 93.56%. Video games don't have to be filled to the brim with fast-paced action and explosive set pieces in order to be good. And just occasionally, a more sedate approach pays off, as demonstrated by What Remains of Edith Finch, the walking simulator developed by Giant Sparrow and published by Annapurna Interactive. What Remains of Edith Finch follows the anonymous protagonist, who remains that way until the end of the game, as they head to Orcas Island, Washington, carrying the journal of the eponymous Edith. The player's perspective then switches to that of 17-year-old Edith, who explores her ancestral home to find the truth surrounding the premature deaths of multiple members of her family. Gameplay-wise, players can expect a slow-paced experience that focuses on narrative rather than action, so exploration is the order of the day. The game released to an outstanding response from critics, who lauded its narrative above all else, which they deemed heartwarming and heartbreaking in equal measure. What Remains of Edith Finch was nominated for a plethora of awards, and took home the Best Narrative accolade at the 2017's TGAs and the BAFTA for Best Game of 2017. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Switch, 97.33%. If we took our average review score solely from Metacritic, then The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild would have taken the number 1 spot on today's list. And honestly, there's very little difference in terms of quality between this title and the one that pipped it to the post. Alas, rules are rules, so here we are. Breath of the Wild takes place at the end of the Zelda timeline and sees an amnesiac Link awakening from a century-long slumber and embarking on a quest to rescue the eponymous princess and save the world from the monstrous Calamity Ganon. Once Link is awake, players are given very little in the way of instruction and must explore the vast open world, fight monsters and obtain better gear in order to take on the stronger threats that Hyrule has to offer. Breath of the Wild garnered universal critical acclaim and is often cited as one of the best games of all time. Reviewers were blown away by the stunning open world, which encouraged exploration and instilled a sense of wonder in players, the gorgeous visual design, and the extensive cast of interesting NPCs and monsters. In a world filled with bland sandbox games, this Zelda title truly was a breath of fresh air. And number 1, Super Mario Odyssey, Switch, 97.42%. Well, if it isn't everyone's favourite mustachioed Italian plumber, back to claim yet another top spot on one of these lists. Just couldn't help yourself, could you, Mario? Released as an exclusive for the Nintendo Switch in October 2017, Super Mario Odyssey follows the titular Mario and his new friend Cappy, a sentient hat, as the pair travel from kingdom to kingdom, collecting power moons to fuel the airship that they can use to rescue Princess Peach, who has, yet again, been kidnapped by Bowser. What is he like? Super Mario Odyssey bears a lot of similarities to its 3D platforming predecessors, but is kept fresh with the inclusion of Cappy, who allows Mario to possess enemies and objects in order to complete puzzles. Critics were floored by Super Mario Odyssey, with over 50 publications giving it a perfect score. The inventiveness of the Cappy mechanic was very well received, as were the puzzles and the overall structure of the game, which allowed players to jump in and out as they wished. So congratulations yet again to Mario and Chums on yet another Best of X Year win. I'd like to make a salty comment, but honestly, it's well deserved.